I'm getting that point too.
New time better, 6 o'clock.
You can do Ed's recognition.
It is a little fresher.
Yeah.
See, I'm.
I think, as Ed said, it's time. So the time is approximately 6 p.m. and November 21st, 2024 Farragut Municipal Planning Commission will now begin. I gave you the chance to do that, Ed. Good evening to everybody in attendance this evening. My name is Scott Russ. I'm the chairman that will be conducting tonight's meeting. We appreciate that everybody and everyone here and every one of you is taking time out of your schedules to attend tonight's meeting to observe how our town government works. All Farragut Municipal Planning Commission meetings are public notice per Tennessee state law. This Planning Commission meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Town of Farragut YouTube channel. This recording and previous meetings will be archived on the Farragut YouTube channel as well for future viewing. Anyone in attendance tonight should be able to pick up a copy of the agenda at the door when you came in. For any persons here tonight that would like to address this commission concerning an item on tonight's agenda, please pick up a blue comment card at the door when you came in. And if you would, write your name, address, and the agenda item that you wish to comment on, and present that to Mr. Shipley over here. Thank you. There will also be time reserved at the end of the business meeting for residents' comments on non-agenda subjects, which also requires that you fill out a blue comment card. On each agenda item, the chairman will ask the town staff for residents' input. During this time, any Farragut resident wishing to speak to the Planning Commission on that specific agenda item may do so for up to 5 minutes. After being recognized by the chairman, please proceed to the podium microphone in order to be heard and viewed by all. In order to conduct efficient, business-like meetings, the town has adopted rules for how its meetings will be conducted. These rules are designed to keep the meeting progressing along, assure that all points of view are heard and considered, and to provide common courtesy to everyone. We ask that you observe the established meeting protocols found on the page following the agenda when addressing members of the Planning Commission. At the beginning of your presentation, please state your name and address for the record. We ask that you address your questions to the chairman, and if necessary, I may call on a commissioner or staff member to address your questions or comments. And then once you've given your input, please return to your seat. We also ask that persons speaking avoid the use of improper language, profanity, and please only address the agenda issues. Speakers should strive to present original viewpoints and avoid redundancy. We ask that you also stay on topic of that specific agenda item. And everyone, please remember, we are here tonight doing the people's business. It's a very important responsibility for all of us here. Now, I'll ask that if you're able, please stand for a moment of silence for prayer and reflection to be followed by the recital of the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I would like to open up the floor to any of the commissioners and to see if anybody has any announcements they'd like to make.
I'd like to acknowledge Ed St. Clair's
Would you like to do
retirement.
that now?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to wait till public forum, do you?
Well,
You may-
we've, the mayor also would like to speak as well, but I'll open up the floor to you, Ms. Pavlin.
Mayor, you want to go first?
Go ahead.
All right, so, I've written this out, so I just want to read it quickly. I want to thank Ed St. Clair for his more than 30 years of service on the Farragut Municipal Planning Commission. Uniquely, Ed is the only person who has served under every town a Farragut mayor. When I was appointed to the Planning Commission in 2013, I was blessed to be seated next to Ed. I had no idea what I was doing, but for whatever reason, Mayor McGill had confidence that I would be a good planning commissioner. Thankfully, Ed St. Clair was there to help me. During meetings, reviewing plans can get tricky. Questions about where things are located and what the acronyms mean would come up. Ed was always very patient and helped me along. They tried to move me once when a new planning commissioner was appointed. I balked. I thoroughly enjoyed sitting next to Ed at every meeting. We didn't always see eye to eye, but we always respected each other and left our strong opinions at the agenda item and moved along. Ed has been an integral part of our community's growth. He's seen it all from very early on. He's helped plan and engage with the public to build this amazing community. Having been there from almost the beginning, we lose an incredible resource and his institutional knowledge. Ed, your wise perspective, your education, your perspective will be missed. And I can give you this now. I'm going to hand this to
You
you.
want it? I'll allow you to hand it to him. Mayor Williams?
Well, it's going to be hard to follow that, but what I would like to do is bring Ed up to the microphone, have him say a few words.
Well, I didn't fill out a blue card, Mayor. So.
Right, I've got one right here. That's all right, I'll fill it out for you.
No, my remarks are kind of short. I have thoroughly enjoyed every minute. Some are a little more terror than others, but for the most part, I'd say we're 99%, just about the business. And then there's that 1% that always gave us more meetings, more crescendos, but it worked out in the long run. The sheer joy to me has been, I don't think there was a person on any of the planning commissions, except for Bob Hill, that I knew when I got onto it. I didn't know Mayor Lillard either. And through the years, having worked with all the mayors, they were all different and unique. They all had this town at their deepest part of their heart and seeing it succeed. And the biggest asset to me has been town staff. Through the years, it's been remarkable. Learned a lot from them. But working with all the members and the town staff and the people in the community, I've got to know a lot of people I would not have known except maybe the circle I knew at church or some other social or civic event. But knowing a lot of people from all parts of this town has been truly remarkable. And certainly the town is very blessed for each one of you at the work that you put in. Just to show up for a meeting, nobody does that. They work and look at it, review the material, and do their homework. And I can't say enough about how, I'll miss you guys on the routine, but I can still watch it on TV, and I still know where you meet, and I can come down here. And I might show up at a staff developer meeting every day. Based on the
We'd love
agenda.
that.
So I'd like to also thank my wife for putting up with me for these 30-plus years, for disappearing on Thursdays. When we first started, we met 2 times a month. Usually started at 8 o'clock and went to midnight or 1 o'clock because we were dealing with updates or of regulations, new regulations. There was a lot of undeveloped property, so we had a lot of long agendas with different properties to be rezoned, developed, looking at all aspects of that process. And it was a lot of work. But I think, look back on it, I think that everybody ought to be proud of what this town has become. That's all I would say.
Okay. Thank you, Ed.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ed.
enjoyable to sit beside you as well, Ed. I couldn't agree more. I haven't been here as long, I think the last 6 years. Learned a hell of a lot from you, and I really appreciate your time and service. And, you know, it's the persons like yourself and staff and then the rest of the commission that kind of keep me coming back every month. And we'll continue to. Thank you. All right, with that said and done, that leaves us with a vacancy for the position of the vice chairman of the planning commission. So at this time, I'd like to ask our commissioners if we have any nominations to fill some very large shoes as the vice chairman of the planning commission. Do we have any nominations?
Yes, I would like to nominate Louise Powell.
We have a nomination for Louise Povlin. Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second.
We have like 8 seconds.
Or, I'm still counting them. It's echoing across the room.
I don't have to do it.
Before we move on to a vote, are there any other nominations by the commission? With the motion to nominate and elect Louise Povlin as the vice chairman of the planning commission, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes? Noes?
No.
Okay. So let the record show that Louise Povlin has been elected as the vice chairman of the Farragut Municipal Planning Commission. Welcome back.
Thank you. You can't be absent.
Oh, don't worry, I will be. Okay, approval of the agenda. Mark, I've established that there are 8 commissioners present, and therefore we do have a quorum for tonight's proceedings. I understand that there are amendments to the agenda.
Yeah, agenda item number 6 is postponed at the request of the applicant.
Move to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Noes? Let the record show the amended agenda has been approved. Commissioner Meyer absent. Approval of minutes. Are there any amendments to the minutes from the October 17th, 2024 Municipal Planning Commission meeting?
No, sir.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor say yes.
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 Noes? Let the record show that
One abstain.
I was.
Thank you, Commissioner Green.
I really wasn't on the planning commission, so
So
I
we'll
can't
two.
stand.
2 abstains.
2 abstentions.
2 abstentions.
Green and Pavlin.
Let the record show that the posted October 17, 2024 minutes have been approved with 2 abstentions, Commissioner Green and Commissioner Povlin. Tonight we have 5 business items for consideration or public hearing. And on your agenda, item number 3 is public and discussion and public hearing on approval of a re-subdivision plat and a variance to not construct a sidewalk along the frontage of Lot D-2R2. At this time, in association with the Echo Suites Hotel, 11244 Outlet Drive, parcel 154.02, tax map 130, located at the west parcel of the Cotton Eye Joe's, 3.1 acres, and it's currently zoned OD-RE/E. Cox Universal Group applicant.
Yeah, this is a plat and a variance to the subdivision regulations for your consideration. They are re-subdividing the tract that was the former location of West Park Inn. And at last month's Planning Commission meeting, you all approved a site plan for an Echo Suites Hotel on what will be the western tract, which is about 2/3 of the 3-acre lot. But this tract here to the east side is an acre, and they're requesting a variance from the requirement in the subdivision regulations to construct a pedestrian facility along the frontage of that lot because it's required, since Outlet Drive is an arterial street, it's required in our subdivision regulations. And really what they're requesting is to construct that sidewalk when that parcel develops as part of the site plan review and approval process. And we've done that before on other project. So the staff is in support of this variance request. It's basically just a delayed construction. It really doesn't make sense to put the sidewalk in now and then it just get torn up during construction of that particular parcel. So for that reason, the staff would recommend approval of the variance request. And then once you all take action on that, then we'll have to take action on the plat itself.
Thank you, Mark. Mark, do you have anybody signed up to speak on this?
No, sir.
Do we have a representative from the town, or from the town, do we have a representative from the applicant that has anything to say about it?
I'm the applicant. I just really just sharing to remind everybody, because.
Yeah, if you would, please give your name.
Yeah, sorry, Philip Cox,
you,
Johnson
Philip.
City, Tennessee. If you remember, like, we've moved the entrance down to, I think it was 100 feet or something like that.
Yep.
And so we talked about going back and putting another entrance for that other parcel down the road, probably to align up with the drive across the street. And so, again, it's just like when we develop that property, we'll be coming back to you guys anyways and asking for that. And so there's really no reason to build something that's just going to get torn up. So that was the purpose. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the variance based on staff's recommendation.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, with that, I'll open it up for discussion.
I see no reason to put it in now, knowing that we're going to have construction going across the street there. You just tear it up and then have to go back and do it again. So let's just do it once.
Do any other commissioners have any further comments or questions for the applicant? Okay. Silence is golden. With a motion and a second, I'll ask that all those in favor to approve the variance to not construct a sidewalk along the frontage, say yes.
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 Any noes? Noes? Let the record show that the variance to not construct a sidewalk is approved. So now we want to go into the re-subdivision.
Yeah, the plat itself.
Plat.
They did add a note on the plat about the variance, so that was one of the comments in the report. So that note is on the plat. So the staff recommends approval of the plat, subject to obtaining the required signatures.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Again, I'll open it up to the floor. Are there any other further comments or questions regarding the plat?
None.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion's completed. I'll ask all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Noes? No noes. Let the record show that the re-subdivision plat has been approved unanimously. And thank you, Philip. Appreciate it. Agenda item number 4, approval of right-of-way plan for Comcast cable on an existing aerial system from Kingston Pike along Concord Road and ending at the FUD wastewater treatment facility plant at 1051 Concord Road. Comcast, the applicant.
Yes, this project is, will install over 8,000 linear feet of new cable in both existing and new conduit. It's predominantly going to be on the existing overhead utility line system that runs across actually both sides of Concord Road. Starts at Kingston Pike and Concord Road and then follows the overhead utility line system all the way down to the wastewater treatment facility. There'll be a couple of directional bores as part of this project, but most of the work is an aerial installation, and the staff recommends approval of this utility project. And this is kind of an aerial showing an overview. You got Kingston Pike up here at the top of the screen, and then so they're starting there and basically coming along Concord Road all the way down to the wastewater treatment facility at the very southwest end of that particular map. So the staff's conditions of approval on this are obtaining a right-of-way permit through the town's engineering department, and that's going to involve the erosion control inspections, traffic and traffic signal coordination, utility location markings. And then the second condition is that there would be no open trench installation allowed as part of this project. They do have already having a letter of credit in place with the subcontractor for this, so that has already been satisfied for this particular job. So with those conditions, the staff recommends approval of this right-of-way plan.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Do we have anybody signed up to speak on this agenda item?
No, sir.
And do we have a representative from Comcast present? Hello, if you would, please give us your name and your address.
Joshua Jones,
Hello, Joshua.
speaking for Comcast,
Okay, could you provide your address?
4718 Springbrook Road, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Do you have anything to add to any of the staff comments?
No, sir.
Very good. Well, with that said, I'll open it up for,
You want to make a motion?
oh, thank you, Louise.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now, I will open it up. Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
on, Mayor Williams, floor is yours.
Mainly for Mark, directional bore, where are we boring?
I think they bore under Concord Road one place, don't you, Josh? Where is it?
By Waterford Drive, it looks like.
Yeah. Let's see
If
I
you
can
look,
go
if you
back.
scroll down to page 15, you'll see where it goes from a light post to, which is across, and then it goes to C, which is, oh, that's a concrete pole. Is that where you're, does it bore under there, or?
I think it's up there closer to Kingston Pike, is where the bore is over across from Tin Bank is what it looks like.
Okay.
Oh, that's a
I'm
bore.
sorry, I'm
Is there
reading
two
it wrong.
bores?
Off the top of my head, I remember one at the beginning.
I just remember, it looks like an 83-foot bore up there, pretty close to the intersection with Kingston Pike.
Yeah, that's right here.
Coming from an existing vault underneath Concord,
Okay.
and then
I
picking up
wasn't
with the aerial
Sorry,
pole line.
right
I
here.
apologize, I wasn't seeing that right.
Yeah, I was thinking in looking at the plans, there was just one area where there was a directional
So
bore.
they're just boring right up there, and then the rest of it's telephone line? Because that's the question I had, is it?
Yeah, it's joint use on LCUB poles.
It's aerial.
Okay,
The
LCD
rest of
poles,
it's
I mean,
aerial.
I'm sorry.
It doesn't look like there's any new poles at all, does it?
No, sir.
No, there's not any new.
You said there was existing conduit? Is that
There's
your
there's
conduit?
both new and existing.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I have.
Are there any other comments, questions? With discussion now completed and a motion on the floor that has been seconded, I'll ask that all those in favor with two subject twos regarding the right-of-way and open trenching, say yes?
Yes.
Yes? Noes? No noes? Let the record show that agenda item number 4 for Comcast cable installation, agenda item number 4 has been approved unanimously, 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. I appreciate your time tonight. Agenda item number 5, discussion and public hearing on a request to amend the text to the Farragut zoning ordinance to permit a second dwelling unit on an existing lot of record that is greater than 1.5 acres in the rural, single-family residential zoning, R1 zoning district. Tyler Butler, applicant.
Yeah, this is an item that we've discussed a couple of times with you all. At the October meeting, the staff had presented some conditions that would further lessen the frequency of where this might be an option. So when we put together ordinance 2419, the conditions, and some of these are similar to what we did with the agricultural district a few years ago. So I'll just go through those real quick here. To have a second dwelling unit, you have to have an existing lot of record, and it has to meet all of the following criteria. It has to be at least 1.5 acres. It is determined by the town staff that the lot could not be further subdivided. I think we found that there was maybe 25 lots that fell under that. That was reduced from like 150 originally when we were looking at the potential candidates for this. That the second dwelling unit would have to meet the setback requirements for principal dwelling units in that district. That there would be at least 40 feet between the two dwelling units. And the reason for the 40 feet is that's the combined setback, the side yard setback in R1. Second dwelling unit shall not create an additional access, so the accesses for the two would have to be shared. The second dwelling unit shall be able to satisfy all utility code and fire suppression requirements. Those would be looked at, of course, with the building permit process. And then the last one is that the both dwelling units on the lot of record shall be served with public utility-provided sanitary sewer and water. Because you can get into, drain field issues and things if you're on septic tank, and you may end up needing more land for you to be able to have a second dwelling unit. So that's why that's in there. So that was the criteria that we provided in the ordinance, and the staff recommends approval of Resolution PC-24-17, which recommends approval of Ordinance 24-19 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mark, do we have everybody signed up to comment on this item?
No, sir.
Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Who seconded that? Louise is first.
I made the motion.
Mayor Williams, second. Okay. And with the motion and a second on the floor, I'd like to open it up to the fellow commissioners. Does anybody have any further input or any comments or questions for the staff?
I think Mark's done a good job putting it in perspective to what we need to vote on.
Yeah, we've talked about this quite a bit.
I just have a question of wording. 2G, it says, "The lot of record and both dwelling units shall be served with public, utility-provided, sanitary sewer and water." I understand, I'm sure that Tom Hill has looked at this language, but it's just a little confusing.
Well, we could take out public and it may just say served with utility-provided sanitary sewer and water.
Well, I don't want to take the public out. I'm concerned about there's certain things that are going on where you now can do these private sewer services or private, it sounds like something that they're looking into. I don't want to take that out. I just want to make that language clearer, that we're saying, and maybe leaving it like this, but it's just because of the commas, it gets it kind of. Public utility provided by a public, sanitary sewer and water provided by a public utility. Could that?
That's fine, yeah.
It says the same thing, it's just sanitary sewer and water.
Provided by a public utility, okay. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
clarification?
Yeah, I get it. Good.
Okay. So
Do we need a new motion?
amend my motion, because I made the motion, amend the motion to change the language in 2G to read, "The lot of record in both dwelling units shall be served with, shall be served, the lot of record and both dwelling units shall have sanitary sewer and water served by a public utility." How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, that's my motion.
We have a motion, and Mayor Williams, or we have a
Yeah,
second?
I'll amend the second.
Okay. Any further discussion? We have a motion, amended motion and second on the floor. All those in favor of approval of Resolution 24-17 to amend the text to Ordinance 24-19, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Noes? No noes. Let the record show that agenda item number 5 to amend, to approve resolution 24-17, amend the text to 24-19 is approved unanimously. Agenda item number 6 has been postponed at the request of the applicant. Agenda item number 7, discussion and public hearing on approval by resolution of the mixed-use town center vision plan.
Well, this is one we've talked about quite a bit. Brought the original draft to you all in May. We made some comments and changes to it and brought it back in June for approval by ordinance, and there was some concerns about that. And then, of course, we got with the town attorney, and then I conducted 2 workshops, one with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in September, and then with you all last month, to really just kind of go through plans, how we deal with plans, how our plan is applied in the town and in the mixed-use town center, and what's the difference between ordinances and resolutions, and what really the purpose of both of those workshops was mainly to assess what the board and the planning commission may be comfortable with in terms of expressing some kind of support for this plan. What we came up with, and that's reflected in ordinance, in the resolution that's included in the packet. That would be resolution PC-24-19. We made some changes to the plan that were asked by both the board and the planning commission. Let me just review those changes first. The first one was clarification on the framework plans for both the Ford and the Concord Road areas, that where they refer to up to 3-story vertical mixed use, that it excludes multifamily residential. That was one thing that was asked of us. The second one was to revise the Concord Road area framework plan. We extended the civic institutional land use that's associated with the cemetery to the south, further north to Hewlin. And we took out that access in between Hewlin and the access to the shopping center. And basically, all the other internal access would come out at the access that goes into the Biddle Farms. So basically, you do need this access because otherwise you're going to have issues down here with the cemetery. So what we did there was basically just from access points here to here, there wouldn't be this intermediate access point. Basically, it'd have to come out here to a signalized condition. So that's the changes we made there. We also took out the municipal parking garage that was shown, that appeared on this particular framework plan section, roughly in this area here. There were some concerns about, that we were going to build a parking garage, even though this is just a concept, a vision plan. It really isn't in that level of detail. But that was the 3 changes that we made. And the way, in talking with Tom Hale, I put together a draft proposal of how to express support with this through a resolution. And the way it's structured, I talk about the fact that we have a plan, and we have this strategy in our plan of bringing about a downtown. And then we talk about, we commissioned this consultant to come in and work on a vision plan for our mixed-use town center. And then I talk about the different chapters in this vision plan, because the chapters 1 through 3 is the background information that gets you to the recommendations that are in chapter 4, and that's the real heart of the plan. And so that's what the staff is recommending support for through the resolution, are the recommendations in chapter 4. We did not include chapter 5, its implementation. We didn't want to commit the town to things that are in the implementation. It was just a little bit more, kind of a little bit more detail there. The real important thing is that the goals and the concepts that are that are reflected in Chapter 4, that are from the community's input, is what we're recommending support through this resolution for. The other thing with this is, under state law, before we can take action on this, there has to be a public hearing at least 30 days prior to the meeting when that action is taken. So really what we're doing tonight is, this is the public hearing notice for this resolution. And unfortunately, due to the way the 30 days falls on the calendar, the nearest meeting that we can take formal action on this is not until the January 16th meeting, because it was actually 29 days in December. So I want to make sure we follow the state law, the letter of the law on this, and make sure that we're following that. So, so that will be when the staff will present this for an actual vote, and then we'll take a similar resolution to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, because they also expressed support for this through a resolution, that they wanted to have a resolution brought to them so that they could also support this plan. So that is a summary of kind of where we're at this point. Does anybody have any questions about this or the plan itself? I have not had anyone sign up to speak on this.
I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Keep in mind, we can't take action on it, so
Oh, that's
it's
right.
really
Sorry.
just a,
I apologize.
that's all right, but yeah.
Public hearing tonight,
Yeah.
and
All
then
approved.
No,
January.
not a public hearing. Tonight's just discussion. I apologize.
Well, it is
we
a
are calling
public
it,
hearing.
we're calling,
Yeah, it's
we
a
actually need
public
to
hearing.
label it a public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a public hearing. It's,
without a vote.
Exactly.
it's kind of like we've
Okay.
been doing with the future land use
Understood.
map amendments, if you
understood.
remember. We'll advertise it as a public hearing, because
Right.
that's what it is. We won't be able to take action on it because of the 30-day.
Okay, with a
timeframe.
public hearing, we typically have public
Votes.
signed up to
Yes.
speak.
I don't have anyone signed
No
up
one?
to speak on it.
Well, then I guess it's up to us.
I think we've discussed this a lot.
Yeah, we
It's
have.
been discussed a
And
lot.
I think all the
available to the
changes reflect the dialogue that we've had on this over the past 6 or so months.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
We've talked it to termination.
Which is
That's
good.
all I
It's-
was aware of.
It's
that
great.
was-
It's how government's
that was
supposed to
allowed.
work.
This is a very important part of our town. The mixed-use town center has been something that's been evolving since the early 90s. So it's good that the public was engaged. It's good that they were involved and looked through the plan and had very specific comments.
Yeah.
That tells us that they're reading and that this is important. So,
These were the goals that are in the Chapter 4. Just to refresh your memory, I got a few key slides from this chapter. This is the main goals. There were 6 of those. And then we had the key recommendations. And again, these are just kind of broad concepts that the community said they wanted to see in this part of the town. So you had the goals, you had the key recommendations, and then you had those framework plans for the 3 large undeveloped areas within the mixed-use town center. You know, the Ford Tract and the kind of the concepts and the vision of the Ford Tract, the Craig Allen property on the north side of Kingston Pike, and then the Concord Road corridor that I talked about earlier. So that's kind of the heart of that chapter. So unless you all have any other questions, I'll plan to put it on for a vote at the January meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Okay?
I see no reason not to put it on there.
yeah.
Okay, see it again in January. Okay, public hearing and discussion is now closed for agenda item number 7. Agenda item number 8, discussion on a request to amend the Farragut zoning map for the property at 12823 Kingston Pike, formerly Summit View Nursing Home, from general commercial C1 to community services S1. 5 acres, Benefield Richter's applicant. This item is for discussion purposes only.
Yeah, as mentioned in the caption there, this is the location of the former Summit View Nursing Home at Hobbs and Kingston Pike. Property is currently zoned general commercial. A nursing home is what it had been, as you all know, and that is a permitted use in general commercial. The applicant is wanting to repurpose this building and basically use it as an independent living and care facility and rezone it to community service S1, which that is a permitted use in S1. And there's a definition for that in our zoning ordinance. It's kind of a lengthy definition, but we talked about that a little bit at the staff developer meeting. The applicant's plan for this building is that they would have no nursing staff. Each unit will have a living and sleeping area and a bathroom, but there would be no cooking facilities in the units. Those would be centralized in the cafeteria, and kind of that setup for the cafeteria and some of their activity spaces would remain pretty similar to what they have now. There's 69 units in the current, in the previous nursing home layout. There'd be 65 units with their repurposed plan. In the S1 zoning district, because S1 can provide for large institutional buildings and also oftentimes serves as a transitional zoning district between commercial and lower density residential, there is a concept plan required for a rezoning to this zoning district. But in the case of this, and we talked about this again at the staff developer meeting, I mean, the site is pretty much already developed. They're not really proposing to make any changes much to the outside. The parking is sufficient for what they're wanting. They're not really proposing to add any more parking or take out any. The only thing that in this district that would need to be addressed that we didn't talk about at the staff developer meeting, but the property to the north is actually zoned residential. Now to the east, that's commercial. But to the north, it's zoned residential. So in the S1 district, there is a requirement for a 50-foot transition area along that interface. And that transition area can be, in the case of this, it probably would be best served as like a pocket park. There's other options. You could have a 35-foot planted buffer strip, but they may want to market this, that space and to fulfill that requirement with some kind of a linear pocket park system. Maybe the landscape architects can get creative with that as kind of a marketing component because they'll have people obviously living there. So that's something that they need to address when this comes before you for a vote potentially next month. It's basically where is the transitional area and what type of transitional measures are they proposing. But the rest of the concept plan requirement really isn't applicable in this case because of it being already developed. Some of the other things we talked about at the staff developer meeting, the rezoning request is consistent with the future land use map. And this particular repurposing of this building for senior housing would fulfill one of the strategies in our comprehensive land use plan of providing for additional housing choice. One thing I did point out, anytime you rezone property that's currently zoned C1 to something that's non-commercial, a consideration for the town, because we rely so heavily on our sales tax, is, just making sure that everyone's okay with that, because there is a strategy in our strategic plan which talks about, let me put this in, identifying potential retailers to increase local sales tax revenue with the remaining commercially zoned properties. So that's always something we need to think about. But in the case of this, unlike how it was previously used where you had residents that weren't able to leave the facility, these would be completely independent individuals. They can leave the facility and they could support our tax base by being able to do that by going to our restaurants or other services that are in the immediate area. So there would be some offsetting tax benefit for the way that they're repurposing this particular building. So That was just some of the considerations that were brought up. So from a staff's perspective, it seems like a good reuse of this property. So if you all have any questions or anything, I think they do have a couple of folks here, or maybe three. If you have some specific questions about what they would like to do with this, I'm sure they would be happy to go over that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from
Okay.
residents' comments. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Lynn Overton, 3208 Ghost Cove Lane, Knoxville.
Hello,
Can
Lynn.
you pull the mic down?
Or grow taller.
That's never going to happen. I would be the executive director for the property. So if you have any questions for me?
I'll start off, if it's okay.
Go for it.
Pocket Park, something like the Chase Bank. Mark,
Well,
is
I
that
mean,
what
it
you
would
had in
be,
mind?
it's a pretty big space. I mean, it's a
Very big
50-foot wide transition area, so it's going to need to be it could be kind of, you could have a trail system and, have some seating areas and things like that. I'm sure Glenn and those guys could get creative with some things, but that just seems to me like one of the more logical options, is you don't have low-impact development up there because it's not a place to deal with stormwater. May want to do a traditional buffer, but to me, it might be a good opportunity to create some kind of activated space that, people can use that live there and serve as that requirement as well.
Horseshoe pit or something like that?
And that's our plan.
Oh.
It seems to us it would be more aesthetically pleasing if it was a pocket park versus a
Yeah.
traditional buffer. So our plan, and with hopes that it's going to turn into more of an evergreen park, seating area, walking path, trail for the residents, and then anybody that, cares to use the area.
Okay. Well, on the sales tax, we weren't getting any sales tax before,
No,
so I mean,
you'd have more tax generation from what they're doing.
Yeah,
Because
that's
like I
all I
said,
got.
these people can actually leave the facility. They're free to, they'll have their own vehicles if they want to. They'll be able to leave and support businesses in the
It
immediate
is
area.
totally, it's totally independent living. It is not assisted, it is not nursing. It's totally independent living. So, we're referring to people my age to older.
okay, that's all I had.
Commissioner Devlin?
I was just curious what kind of, we kind of heard the outside maybe wouldn't change much. Interior-wise, 69 to 65, what kind of refurb on the interior were you talking about maybe possibly doing? Was it totally gutted, or was it just going to get
It
spruce
is
up?
not totally gutted,
Okay.
and I would assume that everyone knows that there was a flood in the previous unit. So the interior structure, the walls have been, the sheetrock has been removed halfway up. That took care of all the damage that was done from the flood. So the only interior reconstruction is very minimal. There is going to be the units, there's 6 units on the, I guess would be the west side. There's 6 units on the west side that will be, the walls in between the individual units that are there now will be removed, and they'll be independent, there'll be a larger unit. So you'll have more of a bedroom living area type thing versus a one unit. So that's the only reconstruction on the inside.
And the target resident, I assume, would be some of the more fragile folks in the community. Lower means, obviously needing.
Not at all.
Okay,
Your parents,
yeah.
my parent, myself, 65 and older. I don't want, if something happens to my spouse, something happens to, me, then where am I going, I don't want to take care of a yard. I don't want to take, it's an apartment complex, an apartment building for 65 plus.
Gotcha.
We're not talking fragile, frail, old. Once you're not able to independently take care of yourself, it's time to move. It's a progression. It's strictly independent.
Yeah, no, I understood that part. I guess I meant more by means, but I understand your point.
It is not by any chance you'll be paying more. I mean, the cost to live there, the rent per se on your monthly charge is
Yeah.
more than what I pay for my mortgage now.
Okay.
I would say this is not multifamily residential in the sense that like I said, you can't cook in there. It's set up, you know, that you have to be over 65, and the interior unit layouts are very different than you would have in a traditional multifamily unit. So it's not that, because that's not a permitted use in S1. But the use that they're proposing, the way they're doing it is a permitted use.
I guess I could explain it more. It's going to be upscale, elegant, independent living.
No, I appreciate that. And some of this is selfish on my part. I spent a lot of time as a paramedic in Farragut Healthcare, not so much Summit View, and it definitely, at that time, took care of extremely low-income people that really had nowhere else to go. So I was just curious what...
And I think that is a stigma on Summit View with the incidents that's happened and the stigma of Summit View. So that is not, the quicker
Understood.
we can get that name off the sign,
Sure.
the better.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. I mean, those people need somewhere to go, but I was curious, so thank you for the answer. I get it.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Dabbler. Commissioner Pinchot?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions. You're going to be offering food?
Yes, sir, 3 meals a day.
Are there any other programs or any other services?
Activities, a media room, there's going to be entertainment come in, the whole courtyard area outside will be revamped, and it'll be, like shuffleboard, horseshoes, anything.
I like that. That's great. I'm just glad to see this vacant building being,
I mean, it's been sitting there pretty much as an eyesore for a while.
so I'm excited to see you all coming up with this concept. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Green? Anybody else?
I have it's what I said, the staff developer, this is a no-brainer, this building's been sitting empty. I know that we talk about any remaining commercial property and generation of sales tax dollars, but the town of Farragut, when we were founded, that wasn't our prime motivation. We wanted to preserve our residential character, and this is certainly a residential use, and it's good to see this building brought back to life. I know that the residents in the nearby neighborhoods have been concerned about this sitting here empty, so I'm excited to see what you guys plan for the outdoor space. I think with Union Road being improved and the intention to have a nice trail system straight out to the park, it's just going to be another asset for families to be able to use and walk around if they just want to make a short walk. So I'm looking forward to that. So I appreciate you guys doing what you're doing.
Yeah, just real quick to add to that, I want to dovetail on that. I think this is a really awesome use for this property. You know, this is an extremely sad place for decades, and this sounds like it's going to be a much more joyous place, and that's great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no expert on independent living or healthcare living, but it sounds to me like you're filling a niche. It's probably much needed in this community.
Thank you.
I want to just a random question too. Several years ago, did some of you ever install the generator and surrounding? Do you recall?
Yes.
There is a natural gas powered generator.
Yep, they did.
Because I remember that came before us like 5 or 6 years ago, and they kind of hemlocked around.
Whenever they revamped the place.
Yeah, they did.
They did?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when they did it.
All right, thank you, Lynn. All right, Mark, do we have any utilities this evening?
No, we don't have any utilities.
Is there anybody signed up for citizen?
I do have someone that has asked to speak under citizen forum about
Okay.
an item that didn't get on the agenda because they didn't get it in time, but it was something that we talked about last month, dealing with the Fifth Third Bank. So I think Taylor Forrester's here. He'd like to bring up they sent over like a revised site plan and some revised building elevations. That again, this is just obviously discussion, so I said, well, you can come and speak under citizen forum, anybody can.
That's what it's for.
So I've got the images up on the screen, but they've kind of come back and tried to mirror what was done at Chase Bank over at the Biddle Farms at Farragut Town Center for the most part. But I'll turn it over to Taylor and he can describe this in more detail.
Thank you, Mark. Taylor Forrester, 1111 North Shore Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee. Here on behalf of Fifth Third Bank and the property owners of the Village Green Shopping Center. We were here last month for a workshop on this request or on this item, and it was confusion on my part. You know, following that workshop, we had a lot of discussion about potential options of consideration of what maybe there was a little bit of interest maybe in exploring versus something not to explore. And it was my understanding, being a workshop and kind of with that, how we'd left it, that we'd be back on a workshop this month. And that was my misunderstanding. As Mark indicated, this request relates to the development of a Fifth Third Bank branch. And the question on the table of the consideration is the exclusion, with this being in the mixed-use town center overlay, the exclusion on drive-through service lanes and windows. So the request initially was filed as a text amendment, but it was raised at the workshop last month about consideration of why the Village Green Shopping Center is located within the mixed-use town center overlay, considering how long that property's been developed. It's a development with type of buildings that will be there, and understanding that the purpose of the mixed-use town center is to have something in place for once redevelopment comes to a property or properties that are subject thereto. Again, the owner was here last month discussing how, you know, that development, what's there, the anchor tenants, I'll call them, or the anchor uses, are those buildings will be there and will continue to be there. So definitely agreeable and would be supportive of removing that mixed-use town center overlay from the Village Green Shopping Center. If this commission was willing to explore that or support that. I think that obviously the mixed-use town center overlay completely makes sense on certain properties, even south of Kingston Pike from this location. Those are areas that are ripe for potential redevelopment or existing development. So this project would be developed in a compliance with those development design guidelines where the building is up near the right-of-way along the sidewalk, the two-story design that creates that, I guess, that vertical integration there along the right-of-way. As far as the interpretation on the type of drive-through, I think that exclusion contemplates being your traditional bank branch drive-through window where you may have multiple lanes. There's one lane directly with the glass window that you're communicating with a bank representative teller in your transaction, and then multiple lanes after that having they're pneumatic type tubes that you can process transactions through. So the Chase Bank, as Mark indicated, this proposed layout is similar to that, and there was an interpretation given that an ATM would be allowed there through that development. If you look at this site plan and these renderings, there is no visual distinction or difference really in between that Chase Bank design with the ATM versus this design, which would have the ATM along with it a pneumatic tube and a video screen to conduct that transaction. So kind of question at first, I think, is the exclusion that says on drive-through service lanes and windows, you know, obviously recognizing those being plural, is it contemplated to apply to something in this manner where it is a detached drive-through at the rear of the property, complies with the requirement that it be any type of drive-through and other type of uses, be at the rear of the development. It's separated by a parking lot. Really no visual or practical distinction between the ATM type setup at the Chase Bank and this proposed setup. One thing, considering how drive-throughs are mentioned routinely in this district, in the mixed-use town center, and if they are allowed, there's certain requirements or limitations on how they're to be developed or to what extent. I got curious, okay, well, we have this reference to drive-through service lanes and windows. Let me search the defined terms and see exactly kind of what is considered a drive-through. And, you know, after doing that search, it's not a defined term. I don't know if that's common under most zoning ordinances or not, but kind of led me to maybe an approach would be is to create a defined term for drive-throughs. It may not be just one definition. It could be a definition that has subparts of different types of drive-throughs. I did a simple Google search, and I was surprised to learn at the variety of drive-through design and style and criteria options that are implemented at different, whether it's fast food, banks, the different options of how that design and that layout and how that operates. So, for instance, you have a traditional drive-through definition, or you know, something like this may be a drive, whether it's a drive-through or some accessory island type used to facilitate a drive-through accessory island lane, limited to the one lane as we have here, not the multiple lanes. So, I guess to close up, trying to figure out a way to do this development. This property's never been developed. I think there is an easement that goes through kind of, only allows for about 2/3 of the property really to be usable and developed. So that's a limiting factor. Some of the deed restrictions or use restrictions with those anchor tenants limits what can really go here, really kind of doesn't allow for food type uses, even just your general coffee. If you're taking the beans off premises or off campus, that's not allowed. So a lot of challenges with the site, with some of the limitations on the type of uses that can go here. So again, would support this Village Green being removed from the overlay, or possibly, maybe another interpretation of whether this exclusion of drive-through service lanes and windows is intended to apply to something like this, or possibly is there an avenue to create a definition for drive-throughs and some sub-definitions or sub-component chapters of that variety of drive-through. Be glad to answer any questions. And again, I think the plans would obviously comply with any design requirements. I know Mark mentioned the community space, can definitely implement that if we're allowed to move forward, but wanted to get some type of visual site plan based on the comments from last month's meeting and the renderings to align with those as well. Mark, did you scan through the renderings?
Yeah, I did,
Okay.
a couple times, but yeah.
I have a few thoughts on this, just because I have a lot of history on this.
The one
You were here
thing
last month, too.
The one
Yeah.
thing I did say on the renderings was to try to have some pitch to the roof if you did move forward. What?
Taylor, as much as we would all like to discuss this, this is an upcoming agenda item, and we've not gone through the public notification process with this, and so we can't even begin to start any kind of deliberations. Personally, I think you're going down the right path, but we really cannot do that without the proper public notification.
Yeah, I disagree, but I can have a conversation with you after.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great,
You can do one-on-one conversations, but I just don't, we could really get in trouble, and we've got a lot of eyes been watching the town recently, and we want to make sure we're doing it the right way.
That makes sense.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
Okay, for clarification, to make sure, how do I get it back? Because I assumed it was going to be on the agenda.
Well,
again, as a
you probably have
workshop.
to
Put it on as
resubmit.
a workshop item for next time. Yeah.
So you're already on next month's agenda.
Yeah,
As a workshop,
yeah.
okay, we can discuss then because it'll be public notice.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank
Appreciate your
y'all.
time tonight.
Quick meeting tonight.
Happens sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes we kind of
Rarely.
we get off in the rabbit hole.
not over
and
yet.
we got to be careful.
It's not over
Oh,
yet.
yeah, we still have some utilities, don't we?
We don't have any utilities, but the time is approximately 7:05 PM. And without objection, the November 21st, 2024 Farragut Municipal Planning Commission meeting is now adjourned. So